Hey guys, welcome to another video, and today we're talking about radio communications at non-towered fields. Because honestly, I feel great at towered fields because that's where I trained, but I feel like a fool when I'm at non-towered. Anyways, we'll throw in some do's and don'ts. Now let's get to it. Alright, so let's start out with who this video is for. It's aimed at student pilots who want to take control of the radios, but it's also for rusty pilots who are getting back into flying, and then for those who trained at towered airports who want to fly to non-towered airports. But the whole idea here is to help you learn when and what to say when flying into and out of non-towered fields, and we're going to focus solely on the radio side of things, so we won't be talking much about non-towered field operations. Just like in our video on how to talk to air traffic control, I'm going to progress through a flight and the comms at each stage. If you missed that video, I'll put a link down in the description, so make sure to check that out. Now, unlike towered field, there's no one telling you what to do and when to do it. So who's really keeping everyone safe? Well, you are. The radio communications that you make are a top priority to help create a safe flying environment for everyone. Now, to simplify things, we're going to go back to that ATC communications video where we broke things down into the 5 W's of communication: who you're talking to, who you are, where you are, what are your intentions, and with what information. And for non-towered communications, we're going to omit that last one because it's not provided. You're not getting the ATIS, and you don't need to tell tower that you have it. But the rest of them do apply for every transmission. Plus, you close a transmission the same way you started it, with who you're talking to. So technically, we still have the 5 W's, just slightly different. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So I'm going to start my flight out on the ground and prepare for taxi by getting the weather information and listening to the CTAF frequency so I have a better idea of what's going on in the airspace. And then, when I'm ready, I'll make my first call, like this.
Alright, here we go. Sedona traffic, Cessna 75600, FBO parking, taxiing to runway 21, Sedona traffic. Alright, no one on either side, here we go.
Now, what I really did there was self-announce my intentions using the newish 5 W's, and with no response on the radio, I looked up and down the taxiway, made sure it was safe, and started my taxi. But there are some other things I could have said, like how I'm going to get there if there's multiple taxiways, or call out an intersection if I wanted to taxi to and depart from it. Back to my taxi, I listened to the radio all the way to the end of the taxiway to get a better idea of what's going on in the airspace, so I can be better prepared for departure. But once I finish my run-up, I make my next call.
Sedona traffic, Cessna 75600, holding short, runway 21, ready for southbound departure, Sedona traffic.
The key information here is how and what direction I want to depart, so if there's a potential traffic conflict, the other aircraft can coordinate with me for my departure. And coordinating can be a candid conversation. It's nothing special. You just want to make sure it's safe for everyone before you depart. Back to our flight, there was no one in the airspace, so I was ready to go.
Sedona traffic, Cessna 75600, departing runway 21, southbound departure, Sedona traffic.
I basically repeated the previous call, this time as an action item, and I taxied onto the runway and took off. From here, that's all you really need to do radio-wise for departures. The AIM does say you need to stay on frequency for 10 miles to coordinate with other traffic, but don't be afraid to make additional calls. I like to make one last call 4 to 5 miles out from the airport that goes a little something like this.
Sedona traffic, Cessna 75600, 4 miles south of the airport, departing to the south to Phoenix, climbing to 8,500. Last call, Sedona traffic.
Then I would fly my route to the 10-mile boundary and change frequencies. But that's basically it for departures. But before we move on to arrivals, let's talk about a few do's and don'ts. Don't say taking the active, because there's no active runway at a non-towered field. Sedona is a great example of this because pilots land on runway 03 and depart on runway 21. If you're saying taking the active, no one will have any idea which one way you're actually departing from. Don't say any traffic in the pattern, please advise. This one is specifically called out in the AIM as a no-no, and it has no real purpose other than getting pilots to step on each other's calls. Just use the 5 W's and the aircraft with potential conflict will let you know. Time for a do. Do be specific with your intentions. That way any aircraft with a conflict can let you know. Like if you wanted to do touch and goes, which would actually make your departure and arrival as well. So let's get into those. There's a lot more radio work for inbound traffic because there could be a few planes in the pattern, and since everyone's in close proximity, more calls need to be made. To keep it simple, we'll just say you need to make a call at every turn. I'll show you what I mean on this traffic pattern diagram. As you enter each leg of the pattern, you make a call, like at these points here. But you're updating all the aircraft with where you are and what your intentions are. And this time your intentions need to include a bit more information because on a calm wind day, aircraft would be coming from any direction and use any runway. Let's get back into our flight about 10 miles out from the airport, where I'm about to make my first radio call to let everyone know I'm coming.
Sedona traffic, Cessna 75600, 10 miles to the south, 6,000, inbound for landing, Sedona traffic.
For my first call, that's all I really need to say, following the 5 Ws. Again, all I'm doing is letting everyone know I'm inbound. Now, just like my departure, I'm going to listen to the radio to get a feel for what's going on in the airspace because other inbound aircraft should announce their intentions in case we need to coordinate. And I need to be ready to do the same if I'm a conflict for another aircraft entering or departing the airspace. Now, as I get closer to the airport, I'm going to announce my intentions again, but this time with a bit more detail.
Sedona traffic, Cessna 75600, 4 miles to the south, 6,000, inbound, overflying midfield to make left traffic for runway 03, Sedona traffic.
So this call actually isn't in the aim, and I technically don't need to let anyone know what I'm doing until I'm making my turn to join the downwind. But I made this additional call for safety, and I added my full intentions to it. You see, I waited to do that until I knew better what was going on in the airspace. This is because the winds could be calm and everyone was going to use a different runway than I intended to. And by listening before I make this call, I can join the flow of traffic. Moving on, my next transmission would be as I'm making my first turn towards joining the pattern, and it would sound something like this.
Sedona traffic, Cessna 75600, 1 mile south the airport, turning to cross midfield to make left traffic for runway 03, Sedona traffic.
Now, if I was going to join the downwind from the north side of the runway, I would have omitted this call, but because my intentions were to fly over midfield, I would be entering the downwind differently, and I wanted to let everyone know. But now I'm ready to join the pattern, and from here on out, the calls are going to be progressive like we talked about before in that traffic pattern diagram. The only thing that changes between calls is what leg we're turning to. Oh, and we're going to drop the altitude because we should be at pattern altitude by this point.
Sedona traffic, Cessna 75600, turning downwind, making left-hand traffic for runway 03, Sedona traffic. Sedona traffic, Cessna 75600, turning base, making left-hand traffic for runway 03, Sedona traffic. Sedona traffic, Cessna 75600, turning final, making left-hand traffic for runway 03, Sedona traffic.
So I was in luck. Today there was no one in the pattern and the radios were silent. And at one point I actually thought that I had the wrong frequency plugged into the radio, but everything was correct. Had there been others in the area, we would have coordinated things to make sure everyone was safe. And trust me, I've been to Sedona when it's busy. Just think of 5 airplanes all arriving at once with 2 aircraft waiting to depart and a Cirrus 10 miles out calling final thinking he has the right of way. Anyways, there is one last call I need to make after I land.
Sedona traffic, Cessna 75600, clear of the runway, taxiing to FWTGs parking. Sedona traffic.
Now everyone knows that the runway is clear, and in this last transmission I could have just as easily said that I was taxiing to the hangars, or taxiing back to a departing runway if I was going to take off again. I just need to let everyone know what I'm doing. Now here's some quick do's and don'ts for arrivals. Don't ignore the radios. The more you communicate, the safer you and everyone will be. Don't think you have the right of way. Coordinate with everyone and take your turn. Don't be that Cirrus pilot. Do be accurate with your location so people can find you easily. And alongside that, do use your full call sign. ADS-B is amazing, and if people can't see you in the air, they may be able to find you on their mobile device, and it's easier to identify who's who with a full call sign. Now real quick, back to when we were talking about touch and goes, we said that your departure turns into an arrival. And remember, you need to make a call at each turn, so make sure you announce your turn to crosswind. So that's it for radio basics at non-towered fields. With this information, you should be able to get out of and into a non-towered airport. But we've gone ahead and put the links for the references and information used to make this video down in the description, so make sure to check those out if you want to learn more. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video, and make sure to hit that like button if you found it helpful, and click that subscribe button too to keep up with what we're doing. And a quick thank you to our supporters over on Patreon. You guys are awesome, and we really appreciate your help. Anyways, make sure you share aviation wherever you can, and we'll see you in the next one.